After watching Immaculate, truly, I don't want anyone to ever say that Sydney Sweeney can't act because I will literally show them this film. Hey everyone, welcome back to Candid Cinema. I'm Amanda, otherwise known as AMXND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Today I will be reviewing the new horror film, Immaculate, starring my girl, Sydney Sweeney, who is also producer on this film. It is directed by Michael Moen. And I have to say that I'm not always keen on religious horror films, maybe because I grew up Catholic. It was just never believable to me. And sometimes it can be very scary. Like demonic possessions can always be scary. But I think it just has to have great performances and a story that's going to sell, on top of the fact that you have to create this very chilling atmosphere. And I think Michael Moen did that here with Immaculate. There are certain aspects that, of course, people have been saying that it's tropey. It is tropey, but it is driven by a fantastic performance from Sydney Sweeney. Now, without her performance, without Simona Tabasco's performance as well, you're not going to sell the convent being that spooky and eerie and really, really weird. It's a lot darker than I wouldn't really call it a horror. There are some like cheap jump scares, and they are cheap jump scares because you could kind of tell certain things that were about to happen. And you're peeling back these layers of what the convent actually is, what they've been trying to do. And this is like no spoilers here. So we have Sister Cecilia, who goes to the Italian countryside. And I think for me, the reason why I really enjoyed Immaculate, apart from the fact that I am Italian, is the fact that they're speaking Italian and the churches there feel different than churches in America. And I think that having it take place in an Italian convent just sets the tone in a very different way than we're normally seeing here. It's also the fact that Sister Cecilia, who's played by Sydney Sweeney, she's learning Italian. So even her trying to understand what the priests are saying, what the other nuns are saying, it's all broken in between. So sometimes she does catch on and she questions them, but other times she has no idea what's happening. So I think that was a good thing as well. But Catholicism, for me, because I grew up Italian, it just felt very different, and there was some sort of like an attachment for me personally, and I think that's why I really enjoyed what they did with this. Each religion's very different. Each culture in the way that they practice Catholicism is very different. So for me, obviously being Italian, I really liked that it took place on the Italian countryside for that reason. And I understood most of the movie without like the subtitles that were on the screen. So I really liked that. I think that because Italian people are very extra, there was a lot of humor here that maybe wouldn't have been as comedic if it didn't come from an Italian person. So I think that it was just very over the top at times, but it worked because of the atmosphere and who was around there. So I really enjoyed that quite a bit. I just really like the story. Obviously, it's called Immaculate. Without giving anything away, I'm pretty sure you guys can catch on what the horrors of this film can be. But I liked that, you know, Sister Cecilia had a friend and she was trying to navigate her position at the convents. So when it comes to a higher calling, that's where there's a gray area of God's telling me to do this. I'm here because of him. I'm here because I have a greater purpose. And there's a lot of conversation will be like, this is my purpose, even if it comes down to taking over women's bodies, which is literally the premise of this film. And I think it was really impactful. If you were as invested as I was, I think women would be more invested in this film than men. I really do think that it's going to create a different emotion for a woman watching it versus a man watching it. And I like that it was more female driven here. I have to admit, it was really strong. There were some pacing issues. The first half was a bit rocky, but at the same time, I was so locked in with what was happening with Sister Cecilia that even though there are pacing issues, I was still intrigued. And I think that is a testament to Michael Moen, who made it so you felt like you were there with her. It was just interesting in the way that it unfolds because Sister Cecilia feels like she was brought to this convent for a higher purpose. Once it gets to the third act, I was just blown away by the visuals, what actually happened in this film. I think there was a great use of silence on screen, a great use of darkness on screen. And we don't get a lot of scenes nowadays that use like candlelight instead of a flashlight. So I think that even the warmth tone of the candlelight adds so much to these frames, because you get to play with these shadows and you hear footsteps and you're in like this darkness, and I love that. And I think the way that it descends into the catacombs by the end of this film really surprised me with how like much I was tensing and freaking out, and what's gonna happen next. Is she gonna get out of here? It doesn't sell without the performance of Sydney Sweeney. Period. It can be all tropey if that is your complaint. I don't think it was necessarily that bad. I felt like it was kind of refreshing for a religious horror film. I think it was really fresh, in my opinion. It made it very unique considering where the story goes. And we've seen versions of it. We have, like, i.e. Rosemary's Baby is probably like the one thing that I could say that it reminded me of, especially in the third act. After watching Immaculate, truly, I don't want anyone to ever say that Sydney Sweeney can't act, because I will literally show them this film. What she does in the last 20 minutes of this film is burned into my brain. I don't think it will ever come out of my head because I cannot stop thinking about it. I watched it on Wednesday. Shout out to Elevation Picks for sending me to that advanced screening, and First Reviews as well for sending me to that advanced screening. I can't get out of my head. The work that she does, the close-up that Michael Moen gives her, and what happens in the last 10 minutes of this film. Possibly one of the greatest endings for a horror film, and she has become one of my favorite final girls as well because of what happens at the end of this film. It's very controversial. 150% is controversial, but it worked perfectly for what the film was in context. It is a perfect ending, in my opinion. So I gave Immaculate a 3.5 out of 5. I really liked it. Literally, the last 20 minutes of this film, like I said, completely sold me for that 0.5. And it's a good time. It was very entertaining. You're trying to figure out what's going to happen to her, if she's going to get out of there. And it's some very weird things that happen at this convent. So I was intrigued, and I hope you will be too. I do hope you guys enjoy the film if you have a chance to watch it this weekend. Let me know which religious horror film is your favorite in the comments. Please, please, please let me know. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can always follow me over at AMX ND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. And if you guys want to help me grow this wonderful channel, you can find out ways to do that in the bio below. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep watching movies.